We will slowly wander into the quiet winter life of a medieval monastery. Far away from crowded cities, from noisy taverns, and muddy marketplaces, there stood isolated stone monasteries surrounded by forests, frozen fields, and narrow roads covered in snow. During winter, these monasteries became still little worlds of their own. The days moved slowly. The routines rarely changed. Candles flickered in dark hallways. Soup simmered gently over small fires. And bells echoed softly through cold morning air. For the monks who lived there, winter was not exciting. It was repetitive, quiet, orderly, and deeply connected to routine. So tonight, we will spend a peaceful winter day among them. We will wake before sunrise, walk through cold stone corridors, sit quietly beside candlelight, listen to distant bells, and slowly experience what daily life may have felt like inside a medieval monastery many centuries ago. So settle in comfortably, perhaps dim your lights, and let your mind drift gently backward into the quiet world of winter monasteries. Long before sunrise, the monastery is already awake. Winter mornings begin in darkness. Not the soft darkness of a modern bedroom, but a deeper darkness, broken only by candles and moonlight reflecting faintly on snow. The dormitory is cold. Very cold. The monks sleep side by side in a long shared room beneath heavy wooden beams darkened by smoke and age. Their beds are simple. A straw mattress. Wool blankets. Perhaps a rough animal fur during the coldest months. The windows are narrow. Tiny drafts of freezing air slip through the cracks in the stone walls. Outside, snow rests silently over the monastery grounds. The gardens sleep beneath frost. The trees stand bare and motionless. And somewhere in the distance, an owl calls softly through the winter night. Inside the dormitory, no one speaks. There is only the quiet sound of breathing. Occasionally, someone shifts beneath a blanket. Then finally, a bell rings. Low, slow, echoing softly through stone hallways. The sound drifts through the monastery like a gentle wave. One by one, the monks begin to rise. Heavy blankets are folded carefully. Sandaled feet touch cold stone floors. Robes rustle softly in the darkness. A candle is lit near the doorway. Then another. Small pools of warm golden light begin to appear along the room. The air smells faintly of smoke, wool, old wood, and cold stone. No one rushes. The rhythm of monastery life is steady and patient. The monks move quietly into the corridor. Their breath becomes pale clouds in the freezing air. The hallway is dimly lit by candles placed inside iron holders along the walls. The stone beneath their feet has been worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. Outside, snow continues to fall gently. The chapel is one of the coldest places in the monastery during winter. Large stone buildings hold cold for a very long time. Even after sunrise, the chill remains trapped inside the walls. As the monks enter the chapel, candlelight flickers across tall arches and wooden benches. Much of the room remains hidden in shadow. The ceiling disappears into darkness high above them. The smell of wax and old incense lingers in the air. The monks take their places slowly. Some bow their heads. Others stand silently with hands folded inside wide sleeves. Then, the chanting begins. Low voices rise together softly, steady, measured, without hurry. The sound echoes gently through the stone chamber. Each word stretches calmly into the next. The prayers repeat again and again in familiar rhythms. Outside, dawn still has not arrived. Snow presses softly against the narrow chapel windows. The monastery feels completely separated from the rest of the world. And perhaps, for the monks, that separation was comforting. The outside world could be dangerous. Wars, disease, hunger, travel along frozen roads. But inside the monastery, life followed dependable routines. The bells rang at the same times. The prayers returned each day. Meals arrived steadily. Candles glowed through dark winters. For many monks, this rhythm became the shape of life itself. The chanting continues slowly. Some monks close their eyes. Others stare quietly toward candle flames dancing in the darkness. Time begins to feel softer here. Less important. Outside, snow drifts silently onto rooftops and frozen gardens. After prayer, the monastery slowly begins its daily work. But first, there is a simple morning meal. The kitchen is warmer than most parts of the monastery. A fire burns gently beneath large iron pots. Steam rises into the cold air. The smell of barley, oats, and dark bread fills the room. Breakfast is plain. Almost always plain. Perhaps warm porridge. A piece of rough bread. Maybe watered ale or weak beer, safer to drink than frozen water during winter months. The monks sit together at long wooden tables. The wood is scratched and worn smooth from years of use. Bowls are passed quietly from one person to another. Very little conversation happens during meals. In many monasteries, silence during eating was considered important. Sometimes one monk reads aloud from scripture while the others eat. His voice echoes softly through the room. The others listen quietly while chewing slowly beside the warmth of the fire. Outside the kitchen windows, snowflakes drift lazily through grey morning light. The world beyond the monastery walls appears soft and distant. Inside, the fire crackles gently. A kettle simmers. Wooden spoons scrape quietly against bowls. The meal is repetitive, but comforting. Warm food in winter carried enormous importance in medieval life, especially during long cold seasons when fresh ingredients became scarce. Nothing is wasted. Breadcrumbs are carefully gathered. Ash from fires may later be reused. Water is carried slowly from wells or storage barrels. Every task requires effort. Every small comfort matters. After breakfast, bowls are cleaned. Candles are adjusted. And the long winter day continues. One of the quietest rooms in the monastery is the scriptorium. This is where manuscripts are copied carefully by hand. Books in the medieval world are precious objects. Each one requires enormous time and patience to create. Inside the scriptorium, rows of wooden desks stand near narrow windows. Winter light is weak. Grey skies often make the room dim even during daytime. Candles burn steadily beside jars of ink. The monks sit quietly beneath layers of wool robes. Some flex their fingers beside candles for warmth before continuing their writing. Ink can thicken in the cold. Hands become stiff. But the work continues patiently. A quill scratches softly across parchment. Tiny letters appear one after another in perfect lines. Some monks add decorative borders. Others paint careful illustrations in blue, red, and gold pigments. The room smells faintly of parchment, candle smoke, and ink. No one rushes. Hours pass slowly here. The repetition itself becomes calming. Dip the quill. Write the letter. Pause. Breathe. Continue. Outside, winter wind brushes softly against the stone walls. Snow gathers on rooftops. But inside the scriptorium, there is only steady concentration and silence. Perhaps one monk pauses for a moment to warm cold hands. Another carefully sharpens a feather quill with a small knife. Some manuscripts take months or even years to complete. In winter, when farming work slows, more time can be spent indoors copying texts. Religious writings. Poetry. Ancient philosophy. Records of history. Many of the books that survived from the medieval world exist because quiet monks patiently copied them during long winters exactly like this one. The scratching sound of quills continues gently through the room. Soft. Repetitive. Almost hypnotic. By midday, light finally spreads across the snowy countryside. The monastery sits quietly within the winter landscape. Smoke rises from chimneys into pale grey skies. Paths between buildings are packed down by footsteps through snow. Beyond the walls, fields lie frozen and empty. During warmer months these lands may hold wheat, vegetables, grazing animals. But now, winter has covered everything in stillness. Occasionally travelers appear along distant roads. Their cloaks wrapped tightly against wind. Their boots heavy with mud and snow. Some may seek shelter at monasteries for the night. Monasteries often served as places of rest for weary travelers, especially during dangerous winter weather. Inside nearby villages, Ordinary people also struggle through the cold season. Firewood must be collected carefully, food supplies protected, animals sheltered from freezing temperatures. Winter in the medieval world was not cozy in the modern sense. Cold entered homes easily. Smoke filled interiors. Clothing remained damp for days. But people adapted through routine and patience. And monasteries, with their steady schedules and thick stone walls, offered a kind of stability during uncertain seasons. The monastery bell rings again in the distance. Its sound travels softly across snowy fields. Perhaps villagers pause briefly when they hear it. Perhaps travelers walking frozen roads listen to the bell echo through fog. The sound becomes part of winter itself. Slow, familiar, endless. As afternoon approaches, another meal is prepared. The kitchen grows busy once more. Steam clouds the air. Root vegetables are chopped slowly upon wooden boards. Carrots, turnips, onions, perhaps cabbage preserved from autumn harvests. A thick soup cooks gently over the fire. The smell spreads warmly through nearby hallways. Bread is sliced carefully. Nothing is wasted. The monks gather again in silence. Bowls are filled. Steam rises softly upward. Hands warm themselves around wooden cups. Outside, snow continues falling beyond the windows. Inside, the room glows with orange firelight. The meal is simple, yet deeply comforting after hours spent in cold stone rooms. One monk reads quietly aloud while others eat. His calm voice blends with the sounds of spoons, crackling firewood, and distant winter wind. No one hurries through the meal. The monastery moves at its own pace. Slowly, steadily, predictably. And perhaps that predictability itself becomes peaceful. Day after day, winter continues. Yet the routines remain unchanged. Prayer, work, meals, candles, sleep. Again and again, like gentle waves returning endlessly to shore. During winter, the monastery infirmary becomes especially important. Cold weather often brings illness, coughs, fevers, aching joints. The monastery stores dried herbs carefully gathered during warmer months. Bundles hang from ceiling beams. Lavender, mint, rosemary, sage. The room smells earthy and calming. A monk slowly crushes herbs using a stone mortar. Another heats water beside the fire. Simple remedies are prepared patiently. Warm teas, herbal mixtures, ointments for sore muscles cracked by cold weather. Medical knowledge during medieval times was limited, but monasteries often preserved herbal traditions and practical remedies. Care itself mattered greatly. Warm blankets, warm drinks, quiet rest beside a fire. Even small comforts carried importance during harsh winters. Outside, evening slowly begins approaching. The daylight fades quickly during winter months. Shadows stretch across snowy courtyards. The monastery prepares for another long cold night. Darkness returns early. Candles glow once more along stone corridors. The monastery becomes quieter now. Some monks return to reading. Others repair robes beside the fire. A few continue writing by candlelight. The wind outside grows stronger. Snow brushes softly against shutters. Inside, the fire crackles steadily. The smell of smoke and warm wax fills the air. The pace of evening feels even slower than the rest of the day. There is nowhere else to go. No bright streets. No rushing crowds. Only winter. Only stone walls. Only familiar routines repeated gently across time. Perhaps a monk pauses beside a narrow window. Outside, snow covers the monastery garden in pale moonlight. The world appears soft and silent. Then somewhere in the distance, a bell rings again. Low, steady, comforting in its familiarity. The final prayers of the day begin. Voices rise softly once more inside the chapel. The same chants repeated for generations. The same candlelight flickering across ancient stone. And slowly, the monastery prepares for sleep. The dormitory is cold once again. The candles burn low. Blankets are unfolded carefully. The monks settle quietly into their beds. Outside, winter continues patiently across the landscape. Snow gathers upon rooftops. Wind moves gently through distant trees. The monastery grows still. Very still. Only faint breathing fills the dark room. Tomorrow, the bell will ring again before dawn. The routines will begin again. The same prayers. The same meals. The same candlelit corridors. And perhaps there is something comforting in imagining such a slow and steady life. A life shaped not by urgency, but by repetition. By quiet work. By soft winter mornings. And by the warm glow of candlelight against cold stone walls. So now, as the monastery settles into silence, you too may rest, and drift slowly into sleep.